Oh my god. I had a cup of coffee, if you couldn't tell. and now I'm having a glass of wine, and I just don't know how to feel about life. Hello all and welcome back to the Red Rum and Red Wine podcast. This is your host, Kristen. I feel like I just messed that up, but it's fine. We're moving along.
You just sound totally not scripted, but radio voice on.
Radio voice on, coffee engaged. Oh my god, I just had a cup right before this, and yeah, it's kicking in.
Tell me not to drink coffee at 6 p.m.
Tell me not to record this episode the day before it has to be posted.
It needs to be edited in 5 hours.
Yes, if you are listening to this on Tuesday morning, please go give me a pat on my dead ass asleep back, because wow, I can't believe I actually got it out here. Shit.
We did it, hopefully. I kind of wanted wine real bad tonight, but I already had one mimosa and I was like,
my mom opened
white with the white.
My mom opened this bottle of wine right before, or she opened it yesterday, and for whatever fucking reason I didn't have a glass. So now I'm drinking her remains now. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
I'm drinking her remains.
And it tastes alright.
I almost picked out a vampire case to do for my next story because, after hearing your story last week, I just so happened to watch an episode on, on something that involved vampirism. And then I was like, you know what? I'd love to surprise Kristen with this, but I also don't want to do back-to-back vampire stories, so
keep it in the archives for next week when everyone forgets about it.
Yeah, I probably already forgot about it.
Oh god.
I didn't write it down.
Oh,
but it's
god.
in my recently watched history.
Do screenshots. That's what I do. When I find something, I just take a screenshot of it and then I forget about it, but then I go back to my photos and that's how I remember. Mm-hmm.
Well, I watched it on the actual TV, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come back to this, and
just never go back.
I'll just Google search the case about those people drinking blood out of each other's arms.
Oh my god.
That ought to do it.
That's called You Need a Therapist. Okay, you gotta say your name.
Oh, man.
You never said your name. I also never stopped talking, so that's a little bit of my fault.
I swear I did. Maybe it was in my head.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
And hello. Sarah is in your presence.
There she is.
You're welcome.
Hi. Oh, yeah. It's one of those days, you know?
It's Monday.
It is Monday. Oh, the worst of all days. Can't.
Which also involves another case I might do.
Oh, well, speaking of, I know that I said I was going to do a military case this round. Or so for those who aren't in our text thread, none of y'all, I asked Sarah what topic she wanted me to talk about, and she had picked military. And I'm not doing it, but
okay. But also after I said that, I was like, oh, I hope she's not doing the military case I want to do.
Ooh,
but I don't know.
Who knows?
Well, because you said army, and I was like,
Oh, I don't really know what branch it was, to be honest. I just always say army.
You always say army.
I always say army
instead of military.
I know.
It's okay.
It's okay. I'll learn one day. Don't come for me. But I'm going to do it. I promise. It's coming next week. But when I started to read the details of it, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to read, even for me. as a woman reading this case, I needed to step back. I needed to take a moment. I needed something a little bit more lighthearted. So that will come.
Oh, you weren't going to do the Vanessa Guillen one, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
No. It's
not that I was
equally
either.
horrifying.
I think it's
but
all
no.
soon,
It'll come next week. So be prepared for that one. Ugh.
Okay.
It's a fucking doozy. So yeah, I picked something a little bit more lighthearted. I just needed a little break. Though it's not lighthearted in the sense that this story is light or hearted, but it's a survival story. So I mean, like, yay! Yeah, it's a little bit better, but no, yeah, it's.
But there's always shit involved.
You know me.
There's always a storm before the rainbow.
And this is like the fucking biggest storm you could. It's like a fucking horror movie. All of them are essentially, but this one is literally the plot for a horror movie.
96 days until Halloween.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know if that's the exact number.
It's
I'm
less than
guessing off
100
of a
for
tweet
sure.
I saw maybe yesterday. So,
but yeah. Oh, nice. But yeah, so
bubbly. Sorry.
You're good. So for today's case, I am going to be talking about what's a good word? The miraculous, the amazing, the heroic survival story of Kari Swenson.
Ooh, do I know this case or do I not?
So I
was going to say, do I know it or do I?
You may. It's actually pretty, like, there are a lot of resources out there about this case, and there was a 1987 made-for-TV movie starring Tracy Pollan, who they just, like, did a recreation movie of it. And then there was also an episode of Investigation Discovery's TV show Your Worst Nightmare, which is how I first heard of the case. And it's like, if you haven't watched Your Worst Nightmare, I think it's on like Hulu. But honestly, really good for a reenactment show. Don't come for me if it's not, in your opinion, but I enjoyed it. So
Kristen's cinematic opinions are valid here.
I give it like a 3.5, 4 star. Like, it's good. I enjoy it.
Out of 10 or
no, out of 5. Out of 5. If you have a glass of wine,
they don't do 10 stars for that crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a glass of wine, it definitely hits up to the 4 mark. But yeah, it's a pretty good show, so I definitely recommend it. But of course, you know me, it's fucking Reddit that brought this case back up into my memory. So thank you, Wonderful Variation, for doing an extremely, extremely detailed account of this case on the True Crime Forum on Reddit. Yeah, just like brought me all back, and I was like, holy shit, I remember this. And then I was like, wow, I have to tell you about it, because if you don't know it, you need to know it. It's insane.
Yay. That's how I feel about my next one.
Yeah. That's how I feel about all of them, honestly. I won't want to tell you so bad, but I have to wait. It's the hardest thing. Anyways. So our crime starts on a really hot afternoon in Madison Range, Montana on July 15th of 1984. So there is a woman named Kari Swenson, and she is running alone in the dry heat of Montana, and she's basically going through Montana environments. Like, I don't know. For those who don't know, it's a lot of like mountains, like trees, fields, forest. It's like 20 miles away from Yellowstone National Park. So it's think Yellowstone National Park, and that's it. It's just like an expansion of it. So homegirl ran like 3 to 6 miles, 10 kilometers every day.
Okay,
almost
you go, girl, because
wow, I can't.
Dude, that determination and willingfulness and dedication to her running probably played a huge role in her survival.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, like, so she didn't run simply because she loved running. Like, she's not that much of a freak. But you see, when she wasn't spending her time waitressing at the Lone Mountain Ranch, she was actually training as a biathlete major. Biathlon athlete, whatever. Biathlon. The biathlon. So
is that where you like bike and run, or is that where you swim and run?
That's a triathlon.
Well, no, a triathlon is running, swimming, and biking, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
So maybe it's either or.
I don't know.
It could be
I don't know which one that's named, but biathlon is essentially, I say it down below, but it's basically where you ski like miles, and then you get your gun and you shoot at the target. Like we've seen that. I've seen it in the Olympics, but it's like they ski however many miles, and then there's a point at the like halfway mark where you have to shoot targets. And of course, after like skiing 3 miles, you're exhausted, so you're having to like control your breathing and really be able to make sure that you can get your mark. Yeah. So it's a lot of breath, like controlling and your heart and all that shit. So
so she wasn't
like major like this is not a like small sport. This is a very big.
Yeah. I mean, when I shot a gun for the first time like a month and a half ago, it was a big gun, granted, but I'm frail and I don't do cardio.
Yeah.
So even just holding it up.
And they use like rifle
to get a steady
Well, I don't
shot.
know what gun for sure they use, but it's like a long rifle.
A rifle.
Yeah. I can send you a photo of her, like her actual photo. I keep wanting to say Olympics. So the Olympics are a little misogynist back then. So this actually wasn't a sport for women in the Olympics, and it wouldn't be while Kari was competing, and it wouldn't happen until like late 80s or 90s or something like that. Like I think in the 90s it actually became an Olympic sport for women. But so either way, I mean, like, but she was pretty good at this sport that she was doing. So just 4 months earlier, Kari had actually placed 5th at the world champion biathlon at Chamonix and was actually picked to race the middle leg of the 3x5 kilometer relay. She had also recently graduated with an honors degree in microbiology from MSU, so brains and bronze.
Very wide variety of interests. I like it.
She does fucking everything.
Smart and healthy interests, I should say.
Yeah. Not like ours, just fucking murder and weed and
alcohol. We have a wide variety of interests, but it involves alcohol, murder,
weird things, you know, normal stuff. Her performance at the Chamonix race, or however you say that, was actually like one of the best done by an American biathlete in the post-war international competition. So like she did the best out of any American woman. Like she fucking just
or American in general.
USA. So one of her close friends and teammates would talk about the struggles of being a woman in the sport because obviously, fun fact, not so fun fact. So it was available to men in the Olympics in the 1950s, but it wouldn't be accessible until like way later for women, like 30, 40 years later.
Like literally over 30 years later.
Yeah,
it's
ridiculous.
Crazy.
So there's actually an amazing podcast, 30 for 30 by ESPN, that brings Kari on and actually talks about her experience. I am so sorry. Hold on. Yeah, so ESPN actually has a podcast, the 30 for 30, or I think like ESPN makes it, whatever. It's a 30 for 30 podcast. I would 100,000% recommend checking it out. They actually bring Kari on and give her firsthand account. But in it, like you had pretty much, like you had said earlier, she described how important breathing is and how she would do like a big inhale and then go like, and then line up and shoot her shot. And it was really the challenge of finding your breathing while doing such a high cardio intense sport that she really fell in love with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so wow.
Yeah, just like I want her brain to be implanted into my brain so I could have that motivation.
Or her lungs. I'll take her lungs.
Oh, imagine all the joints you could smoke with her lungs. But
to ruin them all over
I'd
again.
ruin them in 5 months. Give me some time. I can do it. I promise you. So, yeah, she was a fucking badass, a real athletic woman. She loved the pursuit of the sport. She loved the feeling that it gave her, and she would run every day to train. I mean, she was like any Olympic trainer or like a world champion trainer. She was very dedicated to what she did and had a very like tough training regimen. But the thing about the Madison Range that she was running in is that when I say hiking trails, it's not the hiking trails that like you and I hiked in San Antonio. It's literally paved, like easy, not that hard to climb. This is like actual, you gotta watch where you're going or you're gonna trip over something, break a limb, and be stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Just last summer, there had actually been a man that had been dragged from his tent and eaten by a grizzly bear. So it's not your casual hiking trail, to say the least. But of course, this did not fucking deter the badass that Kari was. So in fact, when her boss, local Bob Shapp, who was the owner of the Lone Mountain Ranch where she worked at, had told her, like, oh, hey, watch out, there's actually a grizzly bear in the area, Kari actually just was like, oh, where is it? I would actually love to see one, and decided that would be the trail that she would run that day, which,
oh my God.
I'm like, that is a little bit on the dangerous side. I understand that you're a thrill seeker, but that is a whoa. But
like, she the most you said Montana,
yeah,
right?
Montana.
That is like the most Montanian thing I've ever heard.
She's like, I've never seen a grizzly.
Oh, you saw a bear? Where? I'm gonna go run and see one.
What's that one meme I'm thinking about? It's like, oi, look at that alligator over there. I'ma touch it. The Steve Irwin thing? No.
Maybe I'd recognize it if I saw it.
It's just like they see the most dangerous animals and he's like, I'ma go poke it. Oh. That's like how I imagine her being. She's like, sees the bear and she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna go pet it.
Yeah.
And it would totally let her, because that's just how much of a badass she is. So even though she was technically considered a native to Montana, Kari was actually born in Philadelphia to parents Bob Swenson and Janet Swenson. So Bob was a college professor, and he would actually become the chairman of the Montana State University physics department. And Janet Swenson was a nurse. So both really smart parents. So once Bob ended up getting the chairman position, they would move back to his hometown in Bozeman, Montana, when Kari was 8. And that's when she really picked up cross-country skiing, and she would just really learn to love biathlon. And that's like how she grew into the sport and how she found her passion.
Wow.
So it was running along this trail in Madison Range when she actually reaches a clearing that opens up onto like a beautiful blue lake. And even though she's really trying to focus on like making sure that she's not tripping over whatever she's running over, she does become aware that, hey, there's like a fisherman over on the other side of the lake. But it's pretty common at that time. Like, obviously it's a lake. There are fish in there. Like, you're in the wilderness. People love fishing. So she didn't really think too much of it and was continuing her run. But once she got closer, probably no more than like 10 feet away from her, she noticed not one, but actually 2 men.
Oh.
And at this point, Kari's like, automatically, she knew as soon as she saw both of them, she's like, something's up. Like, sirens going off in her head, blaring, like, this isn't a fucking grizzly bear. This is 1,000 times worse. Like, what?
And she is an aware individual. I love it.
Yeah. So the older one there were 2 men. There was an older one who had a matted gray beard and a greasy cowboy hat, and he was standing right on the trail.
I'm sorry, matted beard gave me goosebumps.
Disgusting. Like, how does a beard get matted?
That is like the one easiest thing you have that you can brush.
Just finger brush. Like, what the hell? And then there would be a younger guy, like 5 feet away, like kind of off the trail line, that she kind of noticed. She would say that neither of them looked like the typical fisherman that you would run into Big Sky, which is like the area, the Montana area that they're at.
Yeah.
Obviously cautious of these 2 men in front of her, Kari breaks her stride, and that's when she notices that there are 2 rifles leaning against the tree where the men's pack lay, which it's not abnormal because, again, this is the forest, the wilderness, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it was weird for them to be carrying that because I don't think it was hunting season when they were doing this. So it adds. Yeah.
Right, like, because you said it was in July.
July, yeah, like hot. Yeah. No, really.
And you shouldn't even be fishing. I don't know what time of day this is, but unless it's early morning or like evening, I think you're not really gonna have much luck fishing during the day with that kind of heat.
Yeah,
because fish
will go to the cooler. Yeah. So it's just like all coming across so wrong. It's like, ugh. Yeah, like, ugh. So shaky and dry mouthed because she was like into a 6-mile run. I don't know how many miles she was in, but she was pretty close to finishing her run. She would attempt to try and just like normally conversate with them. So she would go, hi, is this the trail to Jack Creek? Like trying to, I guess, gauge how are they going to react? Are they here to harm me? Like what's going on? The older man would reply, yeah, this is Jack Creek, all right. But as soon as Kari would blurt out thanks and just try to like brush past them, the older man would seize both of her wrists as soon as she got close enough.
Oh my God. Well, because also if you ask that, it makes you seem lost.
Yeah. But it's just like I don't know what the right thing would have been in this
Ignore
situation,
them and
honestly.
keep running,
but then
even if they're standing in your way.
He still would have like grabbed her. It's just like, and then if you would have turned around, they had rifles. So it's just
right.
It's so easy to say like, oh, we should do this, but in the moment, like you just never know how you're gonna act. Like it's that flight or whatever response. It's just
fight or flight.
Yeah, you just had like no idea. Me, I would curl up in a ball and cry because
this is not me judging her actions. I just
well, no, you always think what if, because like what is the right thing to do in that situation? Like fucking
apparently nothing.
Yeah, I don't think there was one in this. Like these two guys were just literally insane.
But still, never pretend to be lost.
Yeah,
because that's when people take advantage of you.
Exactly. Very good point. Basically, as soon as he grabs her wrist, like obviously she's like, oh, what are you doing? Please let me go. Like she would try, like, I have a husband, I have a boyfriend, he's coming right up on here, or he's coming up here shortly, like, please just, you need to let me go. The older man would basically say, no, we're not going to let you go. You're a beautiful woman, and we just want to take you up in the mountains for some conversation.
Conversation?
Yeah. Obviously, as soon she's like, nope.
I just had to try to. I mean, I just tried to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it didn't work out that well. So like freaking out, she's like tries her best. She tries to like find skin for her to bite. She's trying her hardest to fight back and kind of like escape from these guys because she knows I need to escape, otherwise like something bad is going to happen. But it was at that time where I guess like fed up with her antics, the oldest man would raise his fist and strike Kari in the left temple, like a solid hit to her head. Now, this is the first time that Kari has ever been struck in her life in like a violent manner, you know, like if you're not if you've never been punched, you don't know that feeling. So obviously she was super stunned and wasn't expecting it. And
yeah, it hurts. Not that I know.
Yeah. So the men took advantage of this and basically bound her. They would tie her to the pack of the youngest boy or the youngest man that was there, and would basically say like, okay, you're coming with us. We want you to come up in the mountains for a few days, and maybe eventually you'll want to live with us and become a woman for my son. And he pointed to the younger man.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I can't believe that I'm actually reading this, that this actually happened. It's insane. Ugh.
I have constant shivers like waving throughout my body.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, left with no choice, Kari had to follow them. Like there was really nothing she could do about it. So they would actually pass a pine thicket that was nearly 200 yards away, and on that thicket, the bark had actually been cut and left with an ominous marker. And on that marker, it read, Dan and Dawn Nichols live in these mountains, July 14th, 1984. So a little bit about these two men, because if you didn't get the hint, they are Dan and Dawn Nichols.
Lion, I know.
They did not live what you would call a conventional pattern of life.
You know, telling from the tree bark, I kind of assume that.
Mm-hmm. So Don, the oldest man, had originally come from Norris, which is a small crossroads community just north of Ennis in Montana. So his family had been misplaced by the Dust Bowl, and Don's father, Pat, and his mother, Maggie, had to end up moving, and I guess that's when they made it over to Montana. So his father, Pat, was a miner, and he would actually be described as a pretty friendly and generous guy who loved to hunt and fish. And as long as he wasn't drinking down at the local saloon, though, because he had a bit of a drinking problem, just a little bit,
Hey, I think I saw him there.
Well, yeah, back in the 80s.
On my many a few nights.
Yeah,
back in the 80s.
His drinking problem would get to the point where when Don was 6, don't drink and drive, kids, his dad would be driving home from a party. People would describe him drunk as a lord, and Pat would actually miss a curve on Norris Hill and slam his car into the ravine. Now, this would kill him instantly, and it wouldn't kill anyone else in the car, though they were obviously injured, but I don't think it was anything serious or anything that would affect them for the rest of their lives. His mother, Maggie, would soon remarry when Don was 8 to his stepfather, Steve Engelman. Now, Steve, I guess, would kind of like be the character to bring on all the troubles in Don's life, supposedly. So some would describe the stepfather as a stingy kind of guy who would take the last egg in the house off the dinner table and eat it himself. While others would say that he was a God-fearing man who was hardworking and spent his free time in church, which I have my thoughts about those people, but...
Yeah, I could see how they could maybe both tie into each other, you know?
Yeah. So it was soon after marrying this man that Don showed troubles of adjusting, and though he did really well in school, he really hated authority, and they think that this hate for authority came from him hating his stepdad.
Yeah.
So he would actually join the Navy after high school, but it would be this hatred for authority that would actually end up like him just saying, I can't do this. I'm not going to listen to you. I don't want to do this. Bye. Peace. And he leaves. So when he leaves, he ends up marrying a girl named Verdina, I believe, in West Virginia. And this would be the future mother to his son, Danny. So Danny was born in the mid-60s, and Danny is the younger gentleman that's with him.
Yeah.
So he was born in the mid-60s, but no one could quite pinpoint where he was born. Like, if you haven't kind of guessed, Don has a real big thing with, like, the government conspiracies, and he's authority. He's like,
so authority to the max.
Literally, he's like, I don't want to work in this rich man's rotten system. Like, he literally wants to be a wild man, like just live in the woods and do nothing.
A fucking mountain man.
Yeah. So after the birth of their son, they would move back to Montana, and he would spend a few months making money, and then he would quit that job and then go live in the mountains by himself for a couple of months. And then when he ran out of money, he would come back. And he would repeat that cycle.
Okay. Kind of sounds like my dad. Just kidding.
Wow. So obviously his wife would divorce him. And
okay, well, I don't know. Not so obvious, because you never know what ladies will put up with.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I'd say these days, but those days as well, even more, because...
Oh, yeah. I guess divorce wasn't as common back then. Well, either way, she was like, I'm fed up with your mountain shit. We're not doing this. So Dan was just 6 when they got divorced. And they would kind of have like custody issues after that. Like Don would want to take Dan into the mountains for long periods of time. And
I want Dan to live in the woods.
Yeah. And his wife would be like, where's our kid? Like, he can't live in the mountains with you. You actually like need to bring him back.
This is the story of my father and my brother.
Okay, I'm like actually terrified now. As long as they don't do this, hey, they can do whatever they want. It's just a bit much.
No, I don't think they were into
kidnapping and assault
harm unless it was towards themselves.
Love that. I too do that.
I am my father's daughter.
I am my father's daughter. Yes. So it, oh my God, so fucking creepy. So it was actually like when Dan came back from one of his visits with his dad, where there was just an incident that I read where I think the wife ended up like dating someone or remarried, whatever. There was some guy there and he was using binoculars, and Dan would come up to him as a child and be like, oh, can I see those people watchers? I can't imagine having a child being like, oh, can I? I'm like, where'd you learn that?
It's like teaching your kid a pair of scissors is like, oh, give me those cutter things. Or
give me those meat cutters. Well, I do use scissors to cut meat, but like, give me those flesh.
Right, maybe a bad
human
example,
flesh cutters. It's okay. You know, moving along. Anyways. But yeah, it was just like, I can't imagine. So Dawn is pretty much like instilling these very unhealthy, I would say, habits in Dan to pretty much like stalk people. And I get into it a little bit later, but he also teaches him how to like fucking steal and shit. So just like, not a great dad award right there. Teaching your kid to be a solid member of society. Dan, the son, had actually met an older woman in his junior year of high school. And I mean like older, like divorced older woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
And started an affair with her, pretty much. So,
an affair because she was married, or an affair because she was like older and he was underage?
A child.
Yeah.
He was a high school junior, and I don't think like at an age where he would be able to consent to a relationship with like a 30 to 40-year-old woman. His dad would give him money. I kind of forget because I didn't write it down, but I think he would give him money to have like a payphone or something like that. Like, this is the 80s, you don't have cell phones, but I think like maybe pagers existed. I don't know. But either way, his dad, Don, found out that Dan was essentially using money to like contact this woman and basically was having a relationship with her, and he was pissed. He was not happy about it at all, and supposedly like beat the shit out of Dan, though it wasn't confirmed. Like, right. Supposedly that's what happened. 80s, and so like... yeah, and he basically said like, don't ever fucking talk to her again, don't ever see her again, don't ever talk to her again.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Did he listen?
Pretty much, because shortly after this, like, the rumors would go on that they basically went off into the woods together and started living off-grid.
Of course.
Yeah. Which, it's, so, when I call them, like, mountain men or wild men or whatever, like, they're not living off-grid. They're not fucking living off the land and being whatever mountain men. Like, they're being assholes. They will go on ranches and steal shit. Like, they'll steal food, they'll steal supplies. So like, they don't know how to live off the land, so they essentially steal whatever they need to survive, and that's
the money to buy it.
And
so
yeah, and they call that living off of the land. So I'm like, what the okay, whatever.
Well, technically they may be right.
Yeah, I guess.
Their guidelines
Corporate
are
America does it every day. Why can't we? I don't know how long they had been in the woods exactly before they grabbed Kari or kidnapped Kari, but they had been out there for some time. So they were fairly familiar with the land and the layout. I even had read that they had camps set along like certain areas of the woods where they would go like for winter, or they would go for summer, and they would like migrate and move along. And so they were just very in the woods. Then
right.
I don't know, they were fucking woodsmen, but they were asshole woodsmen.
Woodsmen nomads.
Yeah, except they didn't do any nomad shit because they just stole everything. I'm like, what the fuck? I think Don came to the realization when he found out that Dan was talking to that older woman that like, in order for my son to stay with me in the woods forever, like I want him to, I need to find him a woman. And so that's basically when they came up with the idea that we're going to take a girl into the woods and she's going to get used to us and we're going to have her live with us. And that's essentially when Kari came into their plans. And it was, so Kari, I believe, was 22 when this happened. When they kidnapped her, they would ask her, oh, how old are you? And when she said 22, Don actually kind of got like a look on his face. He was like, like, you're not old enough because my son likes older women. And she had even said, like, if you want an older woman, like, just let me go. Just let me go. It's fine. Like, I won't tell. Just let me go. And he would be like, no, you're good enough.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Older women.
I know. They even had told her that they tried capturing her a few days earlier when she was out on the lake. Like, they had first saw her out on the lake and they were like, cool, we're going to go snag her right now. But then they had noticed that someone was actually with her, so they decided to wait it out. So they had been kind of, like, not they had been pretty much stalking her and, like, trying to wait for an opportune moment. But, I mean, that's what they did in their fun time pretty much, is, like, they would stalk people. They would go on people's ranches and, like, look at what they're doing.
People viewers.
Yeah, people. It's just, like, so fucking weird. I can't with these people. As soon as they take Kari, she, of course, like I said, was trying everything in the book to try and get these men to let her go. I have a husband. He's going to be searching for me. And they would go, no, I see, like, you don't have a ring on. You don't have a tan where your ring line should be. Dan would go, all women do is lie. And I'm just like, just major issues between, like, you would, there's a book, sorry, one of the main sources, and I should have said it in the beginning, I'm sorry, but one of the main sources that I gathered a lot of this information from comes from a book called Incident at Big Sky, which is actually written by the sheriff Johnny France and Malcolm McConnell, and they go, like, really into detail of, like, the dialect between the people and the events and the manhunt. And yeah, so if you like this case, that was a pretty good book. There is another book that's written by Kari's mother, but she, like, really, really hates the sheriff and really, like, drags him in that book.
Yeah,
and I
so
think
it's, like, one-sided, like.
Yeah, she kind of spends more time I didn't read the book, but I read the reviews, and the reviews basically say, like, she spends more time dragging the sheriff than writing the facts. But I mean, like, when I go into the details, I can see why she gets upset, because there are some things that are kind of upsetting how he runs it. But in his book, obviously, he tries to make it seem like I'm overworked. I was trying my best. I was just like, I was only sleeping 4 hours a night, like, yada yada. And it's like, like, it's just,
I'm sorry, but back then, in that kind of, like, smaller, it seemed like a smaller town community, you know, rural. What the fuck are you dealing with? Besides,
well, he worked multiple jobs. It's such a small town that, like, I guess he ended up doing something else. Like, he would do boats or something. There was something that he did in town that only, like, him and one other person can do. I really forget. It's in the book if you're really interested. But he basically was doing 2 jobs, and he worked all the time, and he just always, like, summers were super busy for him, and it was just, like, he had a lot of things on his plate, which I get. But if you're going to be the sheriff, then your number one job should be the community. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to bash him.
But fucking dude.
Yeah, like, I don't want to bash him because he does do hard work in this case, but there are definitely instances where he's human and he makes mistakes. So
right. So don't make up excuses for you fucking having a second
just
job.
Fucking admit to it.
You know?
It's just, it's interesting to see, but I could definitely see, like, in this book, it really, like, focuses on fucking Johnny. Like, the ending, it doesn't even talk about Kari. The ending paragraph is, like, Johnny sitting down and being like, job well done. I'm like, fuck, dude, you could have at least said something about her at the end. I mean, it's just whatever. Sorry, I'm gonna stop talking about it. But basically, Kari was doing it detailed in the book. She was doing everything that she could. Like, she was a real fucking smart cookie, obviously. She would try leaving footprints in the mud so there would be a trail for people to follow to find her. She would try leaving, like, articles of clothing, but every time that pretty much she would try to do this, her captors would notice and, like, either erase the footprint or pick up the clothing and be like, you need to stop doing this shit, because if you bring anyone close to us, if you get anyone to come over here, we're gonna shoot them the first chance we get, and we're gonna kill them
with your slingshots.
Well, they have rifles.
Okay, yeah, they did have rifles, but I'm just thinking back to the mountain man perspective.
I know. They have rifles, and then I believe both of them had individual pistols, and then they both also had hunting knives. So they were pretty strapped. Like, even if their rifle wasn't on them, they would have a pistol on them. So it's... Yeah. I would consider them really dangerous.
Yeah, pretty threatening for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And just how they look, like, ugh.
Yeah, you're like, ugh, like... You don't even want to like fight with them because you don't want to touch them because they probably.
I don't even want to touch
grimy.
you. Yeah, she would say the smell was disgusting. Like they smelled horrid. I can't. I can't. Just the BO. No. You just that matted gray beard. Ugh. So they would walk some miles before they would open into a clearing, and basically from there they would decide, okay, this is where we're gonna make camp for the night. They would get a chain and padlock it around her waist to a tree. So she was chained up to a tree from her waist, and she was left there for the night.
Upright? Or like was she sitting down?
So I think she was able to sit down because she was in a sleeping bag, but I don't think she was able to like fully lay down because obviously she's tied at her waist. Right. So like she said in the 30 for 30 podcast that she did not sleep that night. She basically like looked up at the full moon and just prayed that someone was out there looking for her. God. And like for a really long time, full moons, like she couldn't look at a full moon. Like for years it affected her. Like only I think she said like in her 50s that's when she accepted the full moon again because it just reminded her of that night.
That's so awful. Like, she stared at it. Such bad experiences associated with the full moon that you can't look at it because it's one of the most beautiful things.
I know, and that's like what helped her come back to accepting it is she just realized she was like sitting in the hot tub with her dad and she was just like the full moon is so beautiful. I'm accepting it again. Yeah. So it was really nice. It was a really touching moment to listen to. Obviously, of course, while this is going on, her family realizes that she's missing and they start gathering resources right away. The sheriff, Johnny, had actually been getting ready to turn down for the night when he gets basically like a slip saying you need to call the office. There's an emergency. So we have to remember this is in the 80s. We don't have cell phones. Like you only have landlines and it's harder to reach people. And in a small town.
Especially in rural areas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it also didn't help that the department he worked for was extremely small. Like they did not have a lot of manpower behind it.
Right.
And like I had said, he had worked multiple jobs and whatnot. So he was stretched fairly thin. So it was way past midnight when he finally makes the call. And I guess to see what's going on. And they say that there has been an ATL put out, which is an attempt to locate. It was put in at 1943, which I don't know military time. 19 minus 12, 7:43. Thank you. So it was put in at 7:43 and it took him until midnight. I just want to say that.
He was having his dinner. And then his dessert.
He was drinking by the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office. Yeah, so they were able to locate her car, so they found her green Subaru station wagon at the trailhead at Jack Creek, though Kari was obviously nowhere to be seen. And once the grizzly sightings started to come into play, like once the rumors that grizzlies had been in the area were learned, they really started freaking out because they're obviously thinking like she probably got attacked by a bear. Yeah. Like, oh gosh.
Which is better? Which is worse?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Would you rather be kidnapped and survived going through horrible shit or get mauled? I don't know.
You could also survive the mauling, but that's gosh, I can't. I don't want to think about that. So around 21:58 or like 9:58, 10 o'clock, they had about a dozen men out searching. So they took trail bikes, they took horses, they took their fucking hiking boots. They went out into the night and they were searching for Kari. By 22:31, so like 10:30-ish, they got a call from the assistant fire chief of Big Sky. Now he asked what was going on because he was not informed that there was a search party out looking for a girl that was missing, which a little well, flag number 2.
Well, okay, so the chief, he obviously wasn't a part of the same office.
No.
The small
But,
unit
like, no
came
one
from.
bothered to call him and say, I don't know. I mean, I get it. You're busy and frantic, but...
But, like, the more manpower, the better.
Yeah.
Or
For sure.
maybe
You want to
Chief
get
was
everyone
an odd
involved.
dude and they did that for a reason.
Yeah, who knows? He basically, like, gets himself informed and goes out and helps. Her dad, Bob, would even find a local pilot that was able to fly him over the forest right before it, like, got really dark.
Damn.
Yeah, and Kari's mom, Janet, would be at the house packing first aid supplies to hand out. She would be retracing the trail looking for her daughter. And it's so sad because they did not know this. But when they were out searching for her, they were not even a mile away from where their daughter was being held captive. So Kari would say that she could hear the people searching for her.
God. Ew,
They could hear her. They could hear her saying her name. There was even at one point, like, a dirt bike had just, like, went over them. Narrowly avoided them.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like, it scared them because they literally thought that someone was coming up, and they just look at her and they go, you don't say a fucking word, because if you bring anyone over here, they're getting shot, they're getting killed, and it's gonna be your fault.
Oh my God.
So she just didn't say anything.
So were they like in a cave or like a den or like a man-made kind of shelter to where...
It was like a man-made shelter from what I read. This is July, so I don't know if this is the exact setting, but I know, like, one of their winter camps, they had actually, like, dug into the ground and made, like, a pit where it was, like, insulated.
Dirt bikes rode over them. I'm thinking, like, okay, they're obviously in the ground somewhere.
Yeah.
Regardless of what season
and
it
it's
was.
obviously, like, very mountainous and whatnot, but they would have, like, they had set campsites, like, around the forest that they knew the location of where they could just, like, walk migrate to. And yeah. So it's, like, it said it in the book, but I was just kind of skimming, but it really made it seem like they had kind of, like, dug a little pit or whatnot. Right. But I mean, she was in this one, it was described more like a clearing. But it's kind of hard to say. Just think of, like, a forest terrain, and I'm thinking she's somewhere on a hill. They're obviously trying to avoid, like, the helicopter seeing them, so they want some kind of cover.
Like, they made their own kind of cave or dugout shelter, almost, like, in the earth. Because if, like, literal dirt bikes rode over them or past them, it had to have been something like that.
And it seemed like it was fairly thick. Like, if you're not able to see,
covered by brush,
not that far to the side, and that's pretty much how it was described. Like, it and when it gets dark, I mean, it gets even harder. So it seems like a simple rescue mission, but when I say a forest, like, it's a fucking forest. So you have to think, like, searchers themselves can get lost, they can get injured. Right. There are a lot of dangers that come with searches, especially when you do a search at night.
Especially
and so
with the rough terrain you mentioned, like, if they're on
and the fucking
bicycles
grizzly
or
bears
horses, and the bears, oh my God, or just walking,
Yeah, a lot of shit. I mean, like, a dude literally just died by a grizzly bear the last year. So it's not like a random thing that could happen to you. This is, like, very much when you go in here, you're accepting that, you know, you're no longer at the top of the totem pole and something can happen. Yeah, but it's basically for this reason that they call off the search around midnight and decide to wait until the next day when they have daylight to continue the search. Obviously, I think this does upset the parents, but it's more so the safety of others. Like, I do understand that sense because factors, it does get really dangerous, not just for the people, like, that you're searching for, but for the people searching as well. Right. So we move into the next day, July 16th, and Kari obviously did not sleep. She stayed up the whole entire night, staring at that full moon. And in the podcast 30 for 30, Janet had even said that, like, she looked up at the full moon as well and was, like, praying that Kari could hear them searching for her or know that they were searching for her, not knowing that, like, her her daughter,
and her daughter was staring at the same phone.
Yeah. It's just like so many, there were so many little things. I'm like, that's why it took me so long. I was like, I
would
gotta
be
write this
crying
down.
if my tear ducts induced easily, but they don't.
If I had emotions, yeah, I would cry too.
AKA.
So, Kari was very adamant that these men were going to rape and kill her, and like I don't
blame her.
I don't blame her at all. That would be my first thing that came to mind.
I think she would even threatening. Obviously, it's like, what do you
they're coming at you with fucking weapons. They've already hit you. Like, you don't know what they're capable of. And it didn't help that Dan, the son, would show her drawings of naked women that he did. Yeah, he'd be like, "Oh, look at my drawings."
To the tree. He's like, "Hey, look at this portrait I did of this random lady across the lake. How I envisioned her naked."
It's like so gross. And then she would like see them hunting squirrels and shit for like their meals. Ugh.
Would she at least get fed?
Hopefully. I honestly,
probably, because if they were wanting her to stay and adjust to being like a mountain wife, then they probably like took care of her while also being threatening like to the max degree. So.
Yeah. I honestly don't know if she ate any food while she was there because it's ending fairly quickly.
Okay.
But
oh shit. Oh my god. Yay. Oh.
Yeah. But I know that she had said like Dan had went out hunting for a meal and he came back with nothing, but then he saw a squirrel and like shot it right in front of her and she was like, "Oh my god." Like, what the fuck? But I don't think that she ate the squirrel. No.
Yeah.
But they had so she was wearing like bright red shorts and a blue shirt when she had been taken, and the men had even said like, "Oh, those shorts are too bright, you need to take them off." And at that point she was like, "Oh my god, are y'all about to rape me? Like, please don't, just let me go, whatever." And they're like, no, like, we don't want to rape you, we just want to make you our woman the natural way by Stockholm syndroming you,
want to domesticate you.
Yeah. It's just like whatever. So she describes how she's like awkwardly taking the shorts off in the sleeping bag so they don't look at her.
Yeah.
And she hands them the shorts and then they kind of like put it in the charcoal to make it black and they're handing her back the shorts. And it's while she's trying to awkwardly put these shorts back on under the sleeping bag that they actually hear rustling coming to the right of them. So obviously, like, fucking terrified. They don't know what's about to happen. All of them snap their heads to the right. And she watches as the two men, Dan and Don, automatically start grabbing their weapons. They start looking out, and they're, like, gonna fucking take that shot if they see it. And they see a stocky, sun-tanned man in a red and black lumberjack shirt appear in the grass. So this would be two searchers, Jim Schwabel and Alan Goldstein, that had stumbled upon the campsite while doing their morning overview.
Chills again. I don't know how many times it's possible for one to get the heebie-jeebies, goosebumps.
This story is literally insane.
It's happened multiple times, this story, for me. Thank you.
It's crazy. I can't. Obviously, knowing like what's about to happen, Kari cries out. She's like, "Do not come any closer. Y'all need to stop. These men are dangerous. They have weapons and they will shoot you. Like, do not come any further. Like, go away.
She
leave."
doesn't want them to get shot and then not be rescued. Oh my god.
Exactly. It's just like she's freaking out. She's like, "Leave. Go away." It's in between her screams that Dan and Dawn have this conversation when when Dawn looks at Dan and basically tells her, "Shut the girl up. You need to shut her up." And Dan turns to Kari. And as he describes, it was just a menacing technique and he accidentally pulled the trigger. But to Kari, it was calculated, it was cold-hearted, and it was done on purpose when he shot her through the chest.
No. Oh my god.
With his .22 pistol.
So it was the pistol, not the shotgun. Because if it was the shotgun, she'd be dead.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She described how her right side automatically went numb and the force of the bullet going through her actually pounded her back into the tree.
Oh my God.
Because she was still chained to the fucking tree.
That first-hand experience, got goosebumps again, okay?
I'm getting goosebumps telling this.
Oh my God, like that feeling of the bullet going through her. Like, you don't hear very often where people get to describe what it feels like being shot, because often they go into shock so quickly and they don't remember or whatever.
She kept her fucking cool. This woman is a badass.
Oh my God.
She's a fucking badass. Like, she... I'll get into it. It gets crazier.
Holy
I can't. The green forest around her suddenly started to appear in shades of gray.
Oh no. Oh my God.
The ultimate horror came crashing down over her that she was going to die in this forest.
Oh fuck.
Jim, one of the searchers, immediately rushed over to Kari's side, and Alan basically decides that he's going to confront these men, and he says, y'all need to stop. We're surrounded. There are at least 200 men around us. There's no way that you're escaping. Y'all put your hands up, surrender. We don't want a fight. Do it. It would be a bluff, and it would ultimately be one that Dawn was willing to bet on. So as Al would say, everything's cool. Nobody's gonna get hurt. We don't want any more gunplay. Dawn's response would be to raise his rifle, sight down the scope, and fire as soon as Alan's head lit up the mark. Alan would fall back. Unfortunately, he was not alive when he hit the ground. And seeing this sight, Jim has to make the fucking most tragic, heart-wrenching decision to leave Kari and run back to get help.
Right.
Now, Kari's alone with these two men who just shot and killed someone basically right in front of her.
Jeez.
And she shot in the fucking chest.
Ugh.
Dan would simply moan, oh, she's gonna die. I didn't mean to. She's gonna die.
Oh, no.
Dawn would say, don't worry, she's not gonna die. I've seen shots like that before. It's no big deal. But they would essentially just gather all their shit. And while Kari lay bleeding out, basically came to the realization that these men were about to leave her. She would make one last desperate plea to them. At the very least, let me have the sleeping bag to keep warm.
Oh my God.
They would simply raise the foot of the bag and let her broken body flop onto the floor and leave. Really fucking disgusting fact, before they left, Dan, because she was in the middle of pushing her shorts up, she hadn't, like, when this was all going down, she hadn't completed pushing her shorts up. Dan pulled them up for her, and then he left.
I thought you were going to say something way worse.
No, but it's like, it's the fact that it's something weird. It's like, why like, after fucking shooting her and leaving her, you're gonna do something so...
I shot you, but here, let me give you some decency.
But I'm gonna be nice enough to pull your shorts up before you die here on the forest floor. Like, it is so fucking weird.
It is the slightest bit of decency you hand somebody while stripping them of every other humanity.
Leave her the fucking sleeping bag. What the fuck is wrong with you? Leave her the sleeping bag. What the fuck? I can't. Oh, it gets worse.
Just chug my mimosa real quick.
Oh, it gets worse. Just wait until the end. Oh my God. I don't know why I picked this story as a lighthearted one. Oh yeah, no. I get pissed at the end a little bit with, we'll get into it.
Kristen's rants.
I know. I tried to pick this story so I wouldn't have a rant, and then I end up having a rant. It happens. So... while they leave her on the floor, she could hear Al's radio going off. Now, it's so fucking devastating because even though she saw Al get shot, she did not know the severity. She didn't know where he got shot. To her, she thinks that he might still be alive. Right. And she's hoping that, like, Al can escape out of here together. Little does she know that he's just not. It was heartbreaking
and
to read.
hear his radio going off, you know, and not being able to reach it, or
yeah, because she was like, I need to crawl to it, but she was like, I can't. Like her before they had left, they did unchain her from the tree. Yeah.
Okay.
So she was unchained at this point, but
shot in the
it
chest.
didn't. She was shot in the chest. So yeah, it's like she said all of her strength was gone. She could feel the cold rushing over her.
She couldn't feel.
Yeah, and it was like They said that they packed everything, but I guess a backpack was left behind. Thank God, because she was able to go through it, and she found a sleeping bag, a canteen of lemonade, and a candy bar. And she essentially like found a sunny spot, and she did her best to wiggle over there, but she said like every time she moved it was excruciating pain, because there was like shrapnel in her chest from being it was just like,
oh my God.
And she basically like laid in the sun and tried to get warm and survive. And it's like to hear her she would spend her time basically like trying to focus on her breathing. She would practice the best ways to not gurgle as she breathed.
Wow.
I'm like, this fucking woman, I can't.
Even knew how to do that.
That she's like, and she was like, I was trying to control my heart, like slow it down mentally, because she's like, to this day can still do that. I'm like, I can't. This woman, if there had to be anyone to be in this situation, like she was ready for it. So
the techniques of breathing and knowing to avoid or reduce gargling of blood coming from your insides should be taught in survival classes. Like,
yes. Oh, for sure.
What the fuck? Because I didn't even know you could do that.
Because it would take them 4 hours to get back to her. 4 hours. Jim had kind of like an idea of where they were, but they didn't have an exact location. 4 hours she had. It felt like an eternity to her.
Oh my God, that is
4
like
hours.
40 years and suffering.
Her lifetime. She laid there trying to survive. It is insane, the shit that she had to go through just to come out on the other side. It's like, I can't give this girl enough medals in life. Like, she fucking wins. She wins at life. Wow. Like, there's mentality of this woman. I just really respect. I respect everything.
Chest,
yeah.
It had to have been just
this
the
woman
right
deserves
spot.
all the respect in the world. Yeah. She went through so much. Ultimately, Kari would be saved. She would spend 8 days in the hospital, but I don't know what you would call a full recovery, but she recovered.
Right.
Al Goldstein would unfortunately not survive the ordeal and would leave behind a loving wife and daughter. So it was actually around his daughter's birthday when Al had passed. So in the podcast, the daughter came on. It's like, I have daddy issues, so this just really gets to me.
Oh God.
So Al was married twice. So the daughter lived with the first wife, her mom. And she had basically been saying, it was my birthday, I was expecting a card from my dad, and I was so upset that he didn't get it. I was just sitting in there so upset, and then the mom called her in, and she was like, oh, what did I do now? And the mom was like, your dad unfortunately just passed away in Montana. And she said that the guilt would only increase when 2 days later, the card that her dad sent her did show up in the mail.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Kristen. I have chills again.
This story, just, I can't, guys. It's fucking, why did I pick this for lighthearted? I don't know. So the manhunt is now on for the father and son duo that had seemingly vanished into the thick of the forest. It would become an extremely expensive and lengthy process because of how quickly and well traveled these men were. Like, I know when they had kidnapped Kari, in their conversation, they had told her that they could walk up to like 40 miles in one day.
Oh.
So. Fuck. I'm like, you're
like
you're
one
a car.
Positive. They had good cardio, I guess. Jeez, or good stamina.
For real. Alan Goldstein's family would actually hire a professional tracker But 2 weeks into the search, there would be some like clashing between the sheriff and him. So there was like one instance where the tracker was like, I found the trail that they're on. They're like 20 minutes away, or they're like a few miles off. We can get them. And then the sheriff was like, no, it's close to nighttime. Call off the search.
Okay.
And in the book, the sheriff kind of details about how he thinks that the tracker may have been a con artist, because obviously this case was highly media. It was put in the media, whatever, mediaized, whatever.
Publicized.
But yep. Publicized. Thank you. Me making up words for your entertainment. But it was a really publicized case, so they got a lot of calls from like trackers, bounty hunters, psychics, skilled outdoorsmen. They're like, yes, I can help you with the case. So he was kind of like wary of the tracker at first, but it's just, there was tension with that, and that's where like more, I think, shit talking of the sheriff happens. But
right.
It's just interesting. But again, the nighttime, and you could have a potential shootout. You don't want people to get hurt, so it's a double-edged sword there. Like, you want to do it the right way, but how do you know what the right way is?
Right.
It's just, I don't know. So either way, a 21-member SWAT team would be made, and they would search the woods for months, and seemingly it would be to no avail. I'm reading the book, and I'm like, okay, where's the happy ending?
I know.
But
I'm like, wait, so I was waiting, of course, earlier I was going to ask you, like, so wait, they got away? But obviously I don't want to ask that yet, because they've been on the search for months, and like, hopefully.
Yeah. So they are getting closer. So on October 20th, there was actually a string of burglaries that would take place in the Gallatin County area. Now, these burglaries were weird in the sense that only food was taken. There were like really expensive electronics out. There were weapons out, even in like plain view. And none of that was taken. It was only the food, only like the bear skins or like the hides to keep you warm, like only that kind of shit. So they're like, this looks like maybe some mountain men are doing some survival skills the old illegal way. So on October 24th, there's actually an outfitter. I don't know if that's the proper term for it. He like takes people to hunt.
Yeah.
His name is Tom Heinz. And he is experiencing a really miserable day out on the mountains because it's like blizzarding apparently in October, which sucks for y'all in Montana. I'm so sorry about that.
How high were you?
Like up in the mountains. So they were following
in the clouds, dude.
Yeah. So they were following elk, which is whatever game they were hunting. Yeah. So I'm sure they were up there.
Yeah, I think.
And he had
it's like the reindeer of types. They might like the upper elevation.
Yeah, the nice snowy.
Who knows? I don't know.
Clouds.
I'm not a
animal
hunter guide person.
Animal knower.
Animal knower.
Animal knower of facts, yes. So I already said that. So he had about 12 clients at the time, and they were sleeping in 3 spike camps, which I have no idea what that is, so I'm sorry I didn't research it. But it was along Camp Placer and Cherry Creeks. Now, a little bit about Tom. He is a 5th generation Montana native, and he was actually raised on an Indian reservation nearby.
Hell yeah, Tom.
So, hell yeah. Super familiar with the area. I'm so sorry. If you hear banging, that is my child having a meltdown. He's banging on some cabinets right now, and I have a feeling that the audio is really going to pick that up, so I apologize. So, at 2:30 p.m. he is with 2 other clients in the fucking forest. He's out hunting, trying to find these elk, and they're getting like the first little bit of sun for the day, and like the first time that they're seeing that little sparkle, twinkle. And he says in this moment he actually gets some Goosie Bumpies up his backbone.
Ooh.
And he compares it to the special effects in a Steven Spielberg movie. And then I know, and then
I'm like, I
know that. But then he automatically thinks, oh, Sundog. And Sundog is essentially, as he describes, like the spirit that powers the mountains in his culture. I know the audio picked that up.
It
I'm
adds
so sorry.
to the creepiness. It's cool.
who doesn't love a child screaming? So, following, he feels this and he goes, oh, it's the presence of the mountains. It's the power of the mountains trying to tell me something. So he's kind of like, all right, I'll go with this feeling. Without telling the two guys that he's with, he kind of just like leads them off his designated path and just is kind of like feeling his way through, and he notices a clearing. And in that clearing, he notices two men that kind of look like they're out of place. You know, they kind of look like shit. They're a little dirty. They're
matted.
A little matted. Like maybe have those, what's it from Charlie Brown? The little dust clouds popping up. The guy who wears the blanket. It's like just not a good look. So he's like, they look bad. And then he takes a closer look and he's like, oh my God, I think that's Dan and Dawn Nichols. So I don't know what shot of alcohol that Tom took, probably absinthe, because he was fucking hallucinating and got some major balls and was like, he's like, there's two dangerous men. I'm gonna go talk to him.
Oh,
I'm gonna go touch it.
I'm
So
gonna
he
go
decides,
touch it.
I'm gonna go touch it. So he's like, yeah, let's go start having a conversation with them.
Oh,
So
God.
he goes up to them and he's basically like, I know who you guys are. Like, don't worry, I'm not armed. I'm not, like, whatever. And he just... this interaction is really weird, and I really don't know how to feel about it. So he basically, like, conversates with them and is asking... just acting kind of chill and is like, oh, I'm not gonna tattle on you. It's just like, what are y'all doing here? Whatnot. And Tom had even made a joke that there was a woman at one of the campsites who was like a chef, because he worked with a group of people. It wasn't just him running this operation.
Yeah.
So he had warned them like, oh, I have a woman on my camp, but she has a gun and like she's not afraid to use it. She's gonna shoot first, ask questions later. And Dawn would just be like, oh, don't worry, like we're not looking for women anymore. And then like all of them would laugh. Which I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you laughing with them? I guess you don't want to get shot.
I don't know
but...
if all of them would, like, I don't know if that meant I think that meant just like Don and his people would laugh.
No, it made it seem like all of them were laughing.
God, ew.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if a killer was making jokes, I would probably laugh too.
It's like, you know, they make their joke and they laugh at their
like,
own
oh my
joke,
God, you're so
you
funny.
laugh because you don't want to offend them for seeming like it's not funny. So you're like, ha 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 ha.
Okay, I'm gonna go away now. But yeah, it's like, so they just had this really fucking weird, chill ass conversation, and he was like, okay guys, see you later, like, have a good walk, don't get Charlie horses.
What the fuck?
And as Tom was leaving, he would hear Dawn say, Danny, what are you doing? Get back up here. And when he turned around, he saw Dan holding a rifle right up to him. Internally screaming, why would you go talk to them? What were you drinking? What were you thinking? Like, I get it, but just don't ever, if you're listening to this, don't ever do what Tom did. Like, just go and call the cops. Like, seriously. That was very, very not smart of Tom.
Like, literally somehow mark your location and then go get help.
Yeah.
So that you
like,
know
if
where
you're
to go.
if you're me, you're kind of screwed because you don't know where you are, but like you'll figure something out. Just
Kristen
fucking
would be screwed.
I would call the cops and I'd say, here, I'm going to leave my phone on the ground. You just ping it. I don't know.
Kristen doesn't know left from right.
I know left because I'm left-handed,
she's left-handed.
but anything other than that, I don't know. What's right? I don't know. So Tom did do at least one thing right, and he would tell Johnny, like, hey, I talked to Dawn and Dan, but it would like be too late at this point because they had time clearly to like walk away. And I kind of figured, I think that they figured he may go and do that. So, like nothing came of it really. So it wouldn't be until December 13th of 1984 when ranch owner Ronald Moore realized that, hey, someone's on my land. So he would describe how he saw like a little puff of smoke, and it was basically like someone starting a fire, and that it's not common during that time
Right.
to start a fire or whatever. And it's like on his land, so he's
Yeah,
like, I
so
don't think that these are
gave
coyotes.
someone permission, it'd be like, that's sketchy, you know?
Yeah. He like kind of thought, oh, maybe these could be coyote hunters. Like, he's not trying to think the worst. You know, like, we're humans. We try to de-escalate the situation.
Think of excuses that make sense until you
Yeah.
think the worst. Unless you're me and you think of the
Then
worst
you just automatically
fucking scenarios ever possible right off the... Okay.
And sip. But yeah, so he like noted, and he was on a horse, so he would kind of get closer to try and like see what's going on. He's like, I don't know, let me check it out. But he didn't have a rifle or like any kind of weapon on him, and he wasn't ready to handle like what possible situation he was thinking that he was going to get into, because the closer he was getting, the more he was kind of like psyching himself out of like, I don't think that these are just like random hunters. I'm not seeing a vehicle anywhere. Like,
right.
I think that this may be Dawn and Dan. So at that, yeah, it's like, what the
sorry,
fuck?
If y'all could see my face right now, I'm rolling my eyes and my chin is like dropped with my tongue out.
Just the what's up?
It has to be. Hello.
But yeah, so like obviously when he like starts to realize this for himself, he turns around and he does the thing that you should do. He goes around, he calls the cops.
Thank you.
Now I wish the cops would have done their job a little bit more time efficiently, but it gets done. It gets done, so whatever. But so he first calls at 11:25 a.m. He doesn't get a call, or no, he doesn't get a call back. He says like, hey, I think Dawn and Dan are on my land. Maybe I think someone, or he was like, hey, I think something's going on. Can someone check it out? Can you have the sheriff call me? And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. He isn't in yet. He'll be in a little bit. We'll call you back. 12:26 p.m. Mm-hmm. No call back. So he's like, okay, I'm going to get the phone and I'm going to call. Because he like got a little closer and he was like scoping it out while he had a fucking hour to whack off and do nothing. He was like, I'm going to go scope this out a little bit more. And he's like, no, this is for sure Dawn and Dan. So he calls back 12:26. Hey, you really need to get the sheriff down here. You know those guys that we've been looking for, Dawn and Dan? Yeah, they're on my land, right? I can see where they are. I see the pillar. You know, we want to get them, right? Right, we want to arrest them, right?
Knock, knock.
Can someone come down here?
Ding dong.
But no one's there, and the one that was there went out to lunch.
Oh my.
Even though an hour had passed. So yeah, finally 1:37 p.m. and another hour. Sheriff Johnny, I don't know how I feel about you, Johnny. You're okay, kind of.
Johnny, I have some questions.
Maybe hire a person in the 80s to run around town to bring these notes to people that are important. Like, I don't know. God, what did we do before cell phones? It's fucking ridiculous. Invent a cell phone, Johnny, so you could figure this out in a more time-efficient manner. Please, that's all I'm asking of you. But it would take some time. Since Johnny got the call at 1:37, it would take him a few more hours, but eventually I didn't read into the details because I was crunched for time on this, because it's like the day of. But he essentially goes on foot, goes to their campsite, and confronts the men. So there is this like, when he basically says like, hey, what are you doing? I know who you are. Like, what the fuck? There's this really intense standoff. They're like pointing weapons at each other.
Oh shit.
But eventually they, like, Dawn and Dan see the helicopter that's over, and they kind of come to the realization like, oh shit, I think this time we actually are kind of like surrounded. Yeah. So they decide like, no gunfire. No, thankfully it was not a big blowout or anything like that. It was really tense, but they say, okay, you know what, it's fine. We'll surrender, no trouble.
Easily gone the other way.
Johnny could have easily died. Like,
yeah.
And that's why I don't want to talk too much shit about him, because he did do something. Like, he did do shit.
Yeah,
but
I think he tried to do the right thing.
Yeah, completely. He definitely did. It's just like, you're a human and you're bound to, like, you're not going to make everyone happy.
Like, something like that, you don't want to approach in person right away without the authorities, because you never know. And
never know. Ugh. And it's sad because,
does
like,
have high risk of turning out ugly. So
yeah, he really cared about the men, and I think after seeing Alan pass away because Alan was a friend, and like he was a friend of Kari's too. Oh man, I forgot to say, like when Kari had moved to Montana, Alan owned like a horse ranch, I believe, and Kari and Alan bonded over, like Kari would go over while Alan took care of the horses and they would talk, and she was like, Alan was a really, really good friend to Kari. I'm so sorry that I did not mention that. I read it, I meant to write it down, and I just for whatever reason didn't, but it was just sorry.
It's okay.
I also don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, so Johnny really like went out on a limb there and like did all that he could and ultimately got the guys. Did he do it in a way that made everyone happy? No, but he did it in a way that no one else got hurt, so you can appreciate that.
I don't care. He did it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, because after the death of Alan, I think it really affected him. Like obviously seeing his friend and seeing the dead body, he would describe like how seeing one of the SWAT team members looked like his son, and he just really wanted to make sure that no one else got hurt, and that was, I think, one of the reasons why he didn't want to do the night searches. He didn't want to push to have this big epic gun battle. He just really wanted to get it done in the least harmful way possible. So I'll give him that much. The trial and aftermath of this whole case is pretty disturbing, to say the least.
Oh, God.
So, like, media, I don't like you ever. I don't think I've ever had one good thing to say about you, but they just did it so they really glamorized the kidnapping and made it seem like something out of a fucking deranged Nicholas Sparks book. They were like, oh, this beautiful woman with long auburn hair went out on a run, and these two grizzly wild men, like so buff and hair on the chest, and just like
subsequently tied her down and
and like they just
forced her among their land.
They wanted her to be her woman, but not in a forceful way, in a nice Stockholmy way over time. Like they didn't want to rape her, they didn't want to do like I'm like, these are scraggly, dirty motherfuckers. They're not even, I don't even call them mountain men because they fucking stole. Mountain men live off grid, they live off the land, they're fucking chopping wood with their shirts off and have a six-pack. Like they're not, I'm sorry, but it's just like they don't fucking steal other people's items, like they actually fucking live off the land.
A high risk of making yourself known and get caught for
I'm
crime.
just like, what the...
So,
and it's just like, you're not being a fucking good person. Like, I just, whatever. Like, also, whenever Dawn and Dan wanted to say anything to the media would run to them and record every single word.
They're fucking thirsty for blood. They love...
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's so disgusting. Like, one of the media outlets even approached Kari and was like, hey, do you mind if we do a photo shoot with you in like a rustic cabin to like match the theme of you getting kidnapped by these fucking mountain men? I'm like, what the fuck is actually wrong with you? Fuck. I can't with these people.
No. You just don't.
They made it even worse by like, they fucking did Alan dirty too. So Alan, who is a fucking hero, he is. They basically called him a James Bond city slicker and said that he essentially had no business being in the mountains in the first place. Which I'm like, he is the fucking reason that Kari's, like, alive. I'm sorry, he's the hero. He went and risked his life to try and save his friend. Like, fuck you for saying anything else. He was part of the search party,
so
yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I just want to know. I just want to know who said that. I want to know their address, and I want to know where they live so I can leave a pile of burning dog shit on their porch.
I don't believe in cancel culture, but they can be canceled, okay?
Just a little bit of terror and torture in their lives. I'm just like, what the fuck? Oh, and here.
Oh, God.
Here's where I get real.
Oh, no.
It's the pissed off trifecta of this fucking case. So, Dan would receive 20 years and 6 months for the kidnapping and assault of Kari Swenson. I don't know when the sentencing happened. She was kidnapped in 84. They were caught in December. I'm sure he was probably sentenced sometime in 85. He was released from prison in 1991. 1991.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to like swallow down, I think, my upcoming, I don't know if it's acid reflux or if it's barf.
Or if it's just pure disgust for this world that we live in. Because I'm
disgust.
sorry. I'm sorry. This is in an interview with the media, who fucking romanticized him. Of course, media, you are completely guilty. He said, I thought that's what Kari was, a girl who just wanted to live in the mountains. And when the media would basically say, like, oh, they just see it as, like, this crazy notion that you're taking this woman, and he's like, do you really think that this is crazy to restrain a girl?
How dare you?
Long pause for dramatic fucking... to restrain a girl, is that crazy? Yeah,
if we were, like, 1,000 years into the fucking...
Even
past.
Fucking then, like, oh my god,
and it was never right.
I can't. It was never right.
Jesus.
Like, what the fuck? Why did we let this man out? I just want to know the parole board. I just want to know their addresses, and I just want to know where they live so I can put a steaming hot pile of burning dog shit on their fucking doorstep. What the fuck? Of course he has had run-ins with the law ever since. I don't think it's anything, like, egregious, but I mean, like, what the fuck? He should be in jail for the rest of his fucking life.
Right.
Like, there's some weird Montana law. I didn't put it in here, but there's some weird Montana law that if it's a kidnapping case and a homicide happens, even though you didn't kill that person, you could still be held responsible and, like, be charged with murder for whoever was killed in that kidnapping attempt. But for whatever reason, they, like, didn't want to charge Dan with Alan's murder.
Okay, even though he clearly fucking murdered him.
Yeah.
You literally shot him, so.
Well, Don was the one that shot him, the dad.
Oh, well,
and Dan's the son.
Either way,
but still,
like, either one of
but
them
the law,
could have been
the law in
charged.
Montana the law in Montana at the time, like, they could both be charged with murder because just the fact that it was a kidnapping case makes it acceptable.
Yeah, and they were they
were accomplices.
Part,
yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Okay, so Don?
So Don would receive an 85-year sentence for the murder of Alan Goldstein and the kidnapping and assault of Kari. So after serving 32 years into his 85-year sentence, I don't know why we make these sentences so fucking long if we let them... I'm sorry. He was released on parole in April of 2017 at the age of 86.
Oh! No, let him die in prison.
Yeah, I can't.
Fuck? He's 86.
I'm trying not to go into a rant. I get that he looks like an old fucking prinkled Rooney raisin, but, like, fuck you, let you rot in jail. I hope you fucking die. Die in jail, please.
What the fuck?
I'm sorry. That was really ugly of me, but I just can't with these sentencings. What the fuck is wrong with America? What the fuck? 91, 20 years, he didn't even spend half of it in jail. Don, like, what the fuck?
And you're so old anyways, just let him die in prison.
Of Dan would say, like, oh, I shot Kari on accident, whatever. It's like, no, Kari would say, like, he looked me dead in the eye and he knew what he was doing. It's just like, how could you let a man like that, because she survived, you're gonna let a man like that fucking walk because she lived? Fuck you and whoever made that fucking law. Fuck that. That's ridiculous.
It's kind of rare where you accidentally shoot someone in the chest.
In the fucking chest and they just happen to survive? Like, that should be, like...
It's pretty rare.
So. If you shoot someone in the chest, like, it doesn't even fucking matter. Just get him for murder because that's a murder shot. That's a kill shot. Like, you don't shoot someone in the chest and expect them to live. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'll raise the volume down a little bit, but I'm sorry. It's just the fire in me is burning and it's not gonna help because next week it's even bigger. It's just like, fuck, I can't believe that I read cases like this, but I mean, here we are. This is what we like, right? I don't know why, but we fucking... I want to burn the government down sometimes. Anyways, sorry.
Please don't.
Sorry,
no,
government.
no,
Please
didn't
don't.
mean that. We're
please
fine.
don't. Please don't. The helicopters don't need to be over my house. I was joking.
Of the USA.
I love USA. US of A. Yes. So. So the board members would note Don's clean record while he was in jail, and that he completed a lot of educational programs, which included anger management and life skills. Round of fucking applause. Whoop-de-fucking-do for you, Don. All while ignoring Kari's statements that she gave during the parole hearings. To which one of her statements being, I endured being grabbed by both wrists, hit in the face, thrown to the ground, chained to Dan, threatened with knives and guns, marched through the woods, secured like an animal to trees, and spent a terrifying night chained next to Dan. And she would go on to continue how she needed years of counseling and still to this day suffers from her ordeal.
Oh my God.
And they fucking let him go. Yeah. So they're both out and about. I don't know if he's dead.
Fuck.
Yeah. Like I'm
sorry. I'm speechless. I wish I could rant like you right now.
I wish I had better words to say.
I'm at that point where I'm just like, okay, where's
the justice? Where's the fucking justice for this family? I just want to know. I'm just curious because I don't see it here. I don't. So a little bit about the victims because I want to try and end on a positive note. So Alan Goldstein was 34 at the time of his death, and he had only moved to Montana just a year before discovering the Majestic region, and it was said that he had fallen in love with cross-country ski during his vacation, and that was one of the things that him and Kari had also bonded over. He was a fearless and brave man who did what was right in going to search for his friend and member of the community and should be recognized as a hero anytime his name is spoken.
Hell yeah.
As his daughter loved to joke, he was loved by 2 wives and a daughter who loved him so much. The love was very clear in that podcast. She loved her dad and had nothing but the utmost respect for him. His daughter would say that he was a hero. He was the kind of guy that would stand up and do anything for anyone. He did the best thing and he did the right thing. He just didn't come out on the winning side of it. But I'm glad that she did.
I'm at that point where I wish
I just can't get enough chills.
I want to cry. No, I don't have chills. I just feel like I want to cry. I feel the emotion where I want to, but it's not happening. It's where I get a frog in my throat, but I don't cry, so it almost hurts.
Yeah. It's a heartbreaking tale, honestly. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I called this lighthearted, but... So Kari Swenson is a strong, resilient woman, and above all, she is a survivor. She channeled her energy afterwards into her passion of sports, so she actually continued to compete after being shot in the fucking chest.
Fuck yeah,
So,
dude.
In February of 1986, she raced at the Home and Collins Ski Festival in Onslow, and though she was kind of doubtful that she would place, it was really her first competition back, she ended up getting 4th overall.
Wow.
And though a lot of people would see this as oh my God, she is making her huge comeback, in reality, the accident had robbed her of the edge that she needed to compete. And she decided that would actually be her last game and that she would retire after that. So she still speaks of the shrapnel that still pops up in her yearly mammograms. And she talks about the pain that she feels every time she exerts herself, which with the athlete mentality, she says is a lot.
Yeah.
And she's just now trying to cope with everything. Like, she still feels fear if someone playfully grabs her wrist, but she's trying to cope with it. She says therapy, working out, all the stuff really helps. She is now a vet in Colorado, and though she still deals with fear from her ordeal, she would like to one day help other victims of violent crimes when she's ready. She spends her winters skiing and her summers hiking and spending time outdoors with her girlfriends, and even picked up ballroom dancing in her free time. And of her experience, she says, "How I handle it anymore is like it didn't happen to me. It happened to somebody else."
Yeah, because she's grown. Yeah.
And that is the crazy whirlwind survival story of Kari Swenson and the tragic murder of Alan Goldstein.
Oh my god. Obviously, you mentioned it was a survival story from the beginning. But when you started talking about how Kari got shot in the chest, I was just like, how?
You just don't think that she's going to survive.
How? Who is the survivor? How? Like, oh my god.
I always get so amazed, like, when people get shot in the head and they survive, and it's like, how? But it's like they're telling you the story so you know that they're alive. Yes. But you just hear it and you're like, how the fuck did you survive that? It's so insane. Yeah, like, hearing her or actually talk about it, I'm just like, I know that this is you saying it, but how are you here? It's insane.
The strength, the determination, it's admirable for sure, because I have, like, on a scale from 0 to 100%, I'm at, like, very low, so...
yeah, I'm at -5.
It really, really, it blows my mind how strong Kari was, and the whole story in general. Oh my god, Kristen, thank you, because I don't think I've heard this one.
It was a woozy. I'm so upset with myself that I forgot about this case, and then I saw it on Reddit, and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually, like, having heart palpitations over this case that I'm trying to do. Why don't I do this one instead? But I mean, it's fucking just as crazy. Even though it's a survival story, it does not give you any less than a fucking, like, tragic story would. It's just insane. The like, trials that she went through, that Alan went through, that the whole community went through. I mean, it was very disturbing to read about, but I'm glad that everyone somewhat was able to come out on the other side. It's thankfully no more lives were lost, but it was a truly just insane story to read about, and I just had to share it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It was definitely, like, I read a book for the first time in fucking, like, over 2 years, so hope I did it okay. But yeah, man, shit.
Well,
now I gotta edit this and post.
It's like, okay. No,
yeah,
thank you. I just feel like I said, I got goosebumps over 10 times during that. So I'm still kind of processing, and
yeah, I was getting goosebumps telling it. It's just like, I couldn't imagine being in that position. It's, you hear about it in, like, camp horror stories, and you don't ever think that that would actually happen, and to hear that it actually happens, I, like, never want to go running on a trail ever again.
Right. Even though you will.
Even though I will. And Kari still does. So if Kari can do it, then hell, I can get over it and I can do it. But it's so insane, the power and the strength that it takes for her, and the determination to continue to live her life the way that she does. I mean, like, utmost respect to you, Kari. You're really killing it out there. So
yes,
thank you for
Kari.
Surviving and showing others that it's possible.
Yes, thank you, Kari, for your story, for your inspiration, and it really just...
Yeah. Speechless, man.
.com.
Well, speaking of .coms, be sure to follow us on our socials at... Oh, nope, that's your line. Twitter. Twitter. Oh my god. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and wherever
YouTube.
you listen to this podcast. Yes, and YouTube.
Oh my
yes.
gosh. Speaking of which, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. TikTok,
is anyone
YouTube.
still here? Is anyone still listening? Hello.
Hello.
Well, you have made it to the end of this podcast. So cheers to you accomplishing that, because wow, you got a reward for hearing that.
But I
last
didn't
10
even
seconds.
say at AR.
Oh yeah, say it. It's okay. No, we're still going.
At
We're still going.
RARW podcast.
Yeah, and cheers.
Cheers
to stuff.
Oh, cheers. Cheers to a fucking okay.
Woozy
To
doozy.
women being brilliant and smart and persistent and dedicated and piggybacking off of the first one I mentioned, smart, like
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing things alone, know how to be aware, know how to leave tracks. God,
Tell friends
like,
where you're going.
Yes, like just cheers to us women learning how to literally defend ourselves and be aware of our surroundings, because whether it's the 80s or the 2020s, baby,
It's
nothing
fucking
has
crazy
changed.
out there.
And nowadays it takes even less for you to be aware and to be easily distracted. So cheers to us doing the best that we can.
Cheers, baby. Well, until next time, guys, stay
You
safe.
did cheers.
I did cheers
Oh.
at the... Cheers to whatever, fine. Cheers to me already cheersing and Sarah forgetting, because she's a terrible fucking friend.
Hi.
I'm just kidding. Okay, next time,
Bye.
guys. Bye. It's gonna be a doozy. It's gonna be woozy.